This is the Burris Fullfield E1 with the Ballistic Plex reticle on the inside. This is a second focal plane scope, which that's probably the most common type of scope in a hunting type application. What that basically means is the reticle being in the second focal plane, when you adjust the magnification up or down, the reticle always stays the same. When you compare that to a first focal plane scope and you adjust the magnification, the reticle is going to get smaller or bigger based on what you do with the magnification. This scope weighs right at exactly 1 pound and it's almost 13 inches long. With Burris, on their website, they give you a kind of a reticle tool to gauge what your drops are going to be for certain calibers and loads that you may shoot. So what I did to kind of illustrate better how a second focal plane system works is this, is if you go on their website and you enter your information in for your cartridge, let's say it's a 243, it's 100 grains, and the elevation's this, all the variables that they ask you to put in, and you set it. Typically, when you do a second focal plane scope, the drops are going to be designated for the highest power. So this one being a variable power, what I want to do is show and illustrate that when the reticle is staying the same by being in the second focal plane and you change your magnification, your drop points are going to change. Your yardages, I should say, on your different markers are going to change based on what your magnification is. And so let's look at this first. And you can see I've got it set at a 12 power and it's zeroed at 100 yards. All right. So the first line here would be 202. The second line would be 337, 445, and 549. Okay, these little dots out here to the side, they're your windage at 10 miles an hour. It's just the default thing they do. They set them at 10 miles an hour. If, for instance, let's go to the biggest one because it'll give us the most distance to look at. So this is a 10-mile-an-hour crosswind at 549 yards. And let's say the wind was only blowing 5 miles an hour, then your hold would be half the distance. If you thought the wind was blowing 20 miles an hour, you would double this distance. So out here somewhere. All right. Now, let's say I change the power on my scope to 9 power. I dial it down to 9 power. Well, now we're at 227 at the first mark down, whereas we were at 202. And when you get all the way to the bottom, you are at 642 as opposed to 549. So that's, I don't want to say a problem with the second focal plane scope, but if you went to Burris and used their ballistic chart to calculate something, if you put it in there at 1 power and then you're out of the range and you happen to say, well, I want to be at 9 power instead of 12 power, your values are going to change. Whereas conversely, if you have a first focal plane scope, the reticle is going to get bigger or smaller, but no matter what magnification you have it selected at, your various drops are going to remain the same no matter what magnification in a first focal plane scope. That's just the difference. When you look through this scope, the reticle is going to appear fairly small. I mean, you're going to have a good amount of glass around it that has nothing, and the reticle's in there. So I'm trying to give a general idea, and this is a pretty bad way, but that is about how it may look. Now, this is a little bit bigger than what it would seem, but the amount of glass that you're going to have around this is, you know, that's pretty relevant right there about what you would see inside the scope. So depending on what you like, if you like to see thick, heavy crosshairs going across there, you probably won't like this one. When you look at this reticle, there's a lot more going on here than just this. The width of these, the width of the dots, it has a lot of stuff. The rabbit hole can go really deep. But if you're just looking at something to give you a basic guideline for some yardage markers and the various yardages they'll be at those marks, when you go on Burris's website, it'll say Ballistic tools, and then you'll pick, I think it's like the 4th option down on the little icons. I can't remember what it is, but it'll basically let you set this up. And there are a lot of cartridges listed and a lot of grains in those cartridges. So there's a lot of options to get something, if not exactly what you have, really close to what you have. And then to go out and test and see, okay, is this doing what the ballistics chart said it would do, and how's it working? So it's just kind of a simple way of kind of getting into a little bit more of an involved reticle without getting too deep into the rabbit hole, in my opinion. So anyway, if you're interested in something like that, check out the Burris products and use their ballistic tool, and you can get it all set up and go give it a shot and see how it works for you. All right, have a good day.